Hi, I'm Marie Wood, and I've been married to David Wood for over 19 years, and I serve as the director of our ministry, Acts 17 Apologetics, and I'm the co-founder and vice president of the MTM CNM Family Connection, which is an all-volunteer run organization that supports families who have the same condition that Reed and Paley have. My story as an atheist begins with my story as a Christian. I was raised in a practicing Roman Catholic family, and I loved going to church on Sunday mornings as a family. I felt a strong love for God as Father and a deep connection to Jesus Christ. I also would ask a lot of questions about God. I was curious about his nature, and I was about 5 years old when I started questioning the concept of eternity. Also, what sort of intrigued me about this concept and it is how it related to my understanding of myself and my place in the world. I think that there was this sense of kind of gratitude and wonder for this realization that there was this world going on before I even existed, even though all that was important to me and all of my own experiences were in the past 5 years at that time, uh, that everything was going on before me, and that I was kind of just this new arrival in the universe, and kind of reverence towards God as this being who doesn't have a beginning versus me who does. And I know a lot of people have this sense of mortality when they think about death, but for me, it was the realization of my beginning. Of course, then I was alerted to this kind of distressing notion that people might not even believe in God. So I was in third or fourth grade at this time, and pondering this shocker when I kind of formulated something similar to Pascal's wager, and I thought I came up with something pretty good. So I got home from school and I was telling my dad about it, and they could see where my conclusion was going, and they were kind of cutting me off even right at the end, saying, both of them just saying, "Oh no, honey, no, no. God doesn't want us to have reasons for what we believe. He wants a pure faith." That was a huge blow for me. I was kind of, you know, chagrined because I thought I was going to get praised for my good ideas. I thought I was like doing a service for God. I found out a way to prove that God exists and everyone should believe in it. The fact that they were saying that this is not what God wants from me was pretty big. And I think that something fundamental shifted in me as I began to compartmentalize my faith as something separate from intellect and reason and logic. When you believe on some level that God is not a part of that world, and that's a big part of your world, then I mean it is kind of the recipe for atheism at the end. I was majoring in biology and psychology, and almost everything you're taught is that life is just forms out of these particles. It all comes down to physical particles and random interactions. And, after being inundated with this type of perspective for a couple years, I really came to believe that there was no personal God, not in the Christian sense, and that there was likely, no such thing as a soul, an immortal soul. That all began to change when I met David Wood. And yes, that is the same David Wood that I'm married to. So David and I met on our college speech and debate team. We got into this big debate about my view of evolution, and he was just kind of trying to challenge some of my beliefs. We started meeting every day to start to debate these topics. We were talking about the evidences for Christianity itself and also evolution. And David and I would meet up and we'd sit together and kind of go back and forth between studying for classes and then debating these topics. And sometimes when I was reading the books, I would start having like this emotional reaction. Like I'd start getting frustrated and angry, and David would kind of try to calm me down. And I was like, well, he's making it sound like that position is stupid. And of course that's annoying because that's my position. This one day when I'm like reading these things and just realizing, that I've got a lot of issues, it reminded me of this mirror that I had in my bedroom as a child, that I had covered up with all these like garlands and leis and sashes and stickers and pictures of friends and stuff. And I couldn't even really see myself in this mirror except like in the very middle. And I would have to really peer in there to see myself. And I felt like in this moment that I was standing in front of that mirror again, but that all of those things had been removed. And I was finally looking at myself and really seeing myself. And I started crying. I had this this incredible remorse and pain in looking at myself. And I mean, I bent over, sobbing into my hands. And David, he was sitting next to me reading, studying, and he comes up to me and he's, puts his arm around me. He's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm crying, and I look up at him with tears streaming down my face, and I say, I'm wrong. That was, you know, just a step away from conversion. So he invited me to church the following Sunday, and we went, and the pastor did an invitation, and so we prayed together. I received Christ, and I acknowledged him publicly, and it was really exciting for me, like, invigorating the life of the mind, and how that relates to God. And the world became surprising again. I could not anticipate God. He's not a tame lion. There was there's always something that's going to happen that I didn't plan for. And also I've been to some really painful places. I know some people tell the story where they become Christians and suddenly, life is great and everything goes really well. And I'm happy that they have those stories, but that's not necessarily my story. My story is a road of being with Christ in the school of suffering. But what I've learned is that there is no dark place where the love of God cannot find me. Because you see me cry, but it's not just pain. It's also this awareness that there's this eternal weight of glory just bearing down upon me. And it's so beautiful that it's almost impossible to bear. And I'm so grateful for that. And so I'm always grateful to share that story and to talk about who God is, and he is real. And if anyone could take away anything from my story, that's what I want them to know, that God is real and he's knowable. If you are an atheist and you're listening, I hope that you keep investigating and asking questions with an open heart and an open mind. And it can be really challenging to get vulnerable when you're in the midst of a debate with someone. I definitely recommend that you study the life of Christ, and I dare you not to fall in love with him. And read those gospels and study the arguments from design, the historical resurrection, and spend time with Christians who take their faith seriously, who truly love God with their hearts and their souls and their minds. What's always really important to remember is that that believing in God and the one whom he sent is not just about going to heaven when you die, but living wholeheartedly and soulfully and mindfully in the truth and the light right now. And there is nothing sweeter than the taste of eternity in Jesus Christ and the experience of God's presence